Hi, I'm Karen Turton, CEO and founder of Purple Story, and the webinar that we filmed specifically for Propel today is all about providing actionable strategies for your general managers to help mitigate the rise in the national minimum wage coming this April through what they can do rather than waiting for somebody to tell them what to do. Now, real life scenario, over the past few weeks we've been running sessions with lots of different operators throughout hospitality, and one of the things that we're asking the general managers in the room, we're asking them, have they worked out what the pound note impact is going to be on their business from the national minimum wage increase heading our way in April. It's not new news to most people watching this, but to general managers, very few, if any, general managers have actually worked out the national minimum wage impact. The second question we typically ask is, if you haven't worked out the national minimum wage increase, how can you work out what additional sales you're going to have to take to mitigate that increased cost, which we know is circa 10%? We kind of met with dumbfounded faces a little bit, which has decided it's made us think about how do we impact that in a positive way by delivering this webinar that can actually help trigger general managers to take control rather than waiting for somebody to tell them what to do with the national minimum wage. At Purple Story, we believe in being future fit, not past perfect. What does that actually mean? Well, if we think about the rise in the national minimum wage, typically organisations will focus on labour optimisation, somebody will be busy working away to work out what the impact, and then strategies will come out through the ops team that will filter down to the general managers. I'm being a bit provocative today to say that we need to be future fit. And future fit is about not waiting for somebody to tell the general managers what to do. It's about giving general managers the tools themselves so that today they can go and do something about it that can mitigate that change. We're calling that future fit. Here we are, Junkyard Golf in Manchester, filming this webinar that hopefully is just going to shine a light on what general managers can be doing right now to positively impact some of that rising cost. If we look at some of the data from our partners, Feed It Back in particular looked at some of the guest experience data over the Christmas period and showed that 18% of complaints were about speed, relating to that Net Promoter Score. Now that was the top one, speed. Now that tells us we're not quick enough to get the food out. There's a way right there of mitigating national minimum wage increases by getting faster, because the more people we can serve quicker, fewer people we need to do it. I'm being provocative today for the right reasons to make people think about sales strategies. The second comes from Hospitality Data Insights, who've shown that over the last 2 years, there's been a 21% price increase on food and drink. In fact, in the last quarter, that's typically between 1 and 1.7% increase. So we're limited as to what additional price we can take to mitigate those rising costs. If you put those two things together, we start to have some strategies that managers themselves can actually do something about. So for the remainder of this webinar, we're going to break it down into a series of small, insightful and actionable strategies that you could take and straight away disseminate to your operational teams, so that not only are you doing what we do centrally to minimise the impact, but we're also trying to drive the sales through the teams on the floor so that we really have the most efficient operations that there are. We're talking about operational excellence at the end of the day. Technique number 1, cracking the sales code, is what we call chunking. So let's get on it like a cart bonnet. Grab a pen, piece of paper, and go with me on this little journey for a minute. Because chunking is about breaking something down that feels scary to something that actually feels achievable. Impossible very easily becomes I'm possible. So let's assume that you need to find an additional £4,000 per month revenue, and actually the increase in your national minimum wage would have no impact. Chunking is about breaking it down so your team can engage with that number. £4,000 sounds like a lot of money. Most of us don't have £4,000 in our bank account at the end of the month. But £4,000 is how much over 4 weeks? Yeah, it's £1,000. So now we're not finding £4,000, we're finding £1,000. Let's think we're open 7 days. So £1,000 divided by 7 is what? Let's call it £170. And yes, I know that arithmetic is not spot on. So now we're trying to find £170 a day, not £1,000 a week. So £170, let's now think we have 2 trading parts in the day. Typically, we'll have lunch and dinner, or lunchtime drinking, evening drinking. You might even have breakfast and do this 3 parts, but let's say 2. So £170 now per day over 2 parts, hey, we're looking at £85. So £85 on lunch and £85 on dinner. So I'm not trying to find £4,000, I'm trying to find £85. Now let's assume on lunch or dinner, we've got 2 hours on each where we take the majority of our money. That £85 has now become £42.50 an hour. So I'm not trying to find £4,000, I'm trying to find £42.50. Now let's assume in that hour you have 2 people working. Might be 1 on the bar, might be 2 on the floor. That £42.50 has now become like £21 an hour. And let's assume that £21 an hour, we break it down into 4 15-minute slots. We're effectively trying to find £5, £6 every 15 minutes for those 2 hours. So for 4 hours a day, we're trying to find an extra £5 or £6 per 15 minutes. And if we did that per person, we would hit our £4,000 for the month. £5 every 15 minutes is a portion of chips or a bottle of water or whatever your pricing is. £5 is what we're looking for. Sometimes we overcomplicate. It's like going on that really long journey. And I am going to climb into the car now because I'm at Junkyard Golf. And why wouldn't I? So let's stop overcomplicating and let's load your sat-nav with a really simple number. £5 is an easy destination to drive to. £4,000 is a really long, arduous journey. You as a general manager can choose. You're going to choose 5 or are you going to choose 4,000? That's what we call chunking. What I want you to think about is every team brief, do you break it down as simply as that and empower the team how they're going to find that £5 or £6? You probably don't, and you're probably now going, I'm absolutely going to do that. Cracking the sales code technique number 2 is speed. Do you have a strategy about speed? And not just we're focusing on speed, but a considered plan for speed. I've already introduced the fact that speed was the top complaint factor that impacted Net Promoter Score over the Christmas period, brought to you by the Feed It Back data. If we think about it, we know that the fastest growth in food and drink is coming from delivery, fast food and convenience. In fact, believe it or not, HDI data told us that out of every £100 spent on food and drink, £2 of it goes to Greggs. For every £100, £2 is going to Greggs. There is a theme of convenience and speed that is the way we live our lives now. So actually, if people are used to ordering food and getting it in 15, 20 minutes, then they're not going to wait happily for 35 to 40 minutes in a restaurant. Makes sense, right? Well, here's the thing on speed. Have you reviewed which members of your team can only carry 2 plates? Because national minimum wage increase coming. If somebody can only carry 2 plates, they're going to have to do more trips to the pass to carry 2 plates and then another 2 plates, whereas if they could carry 3 plates, we are reducing the number of trips that they need to make. Therefore, we're actually being more efficient with what we do. We get the food off the pass quicker to the table. Speed is an important strategy to look at. And if you know you've got that team member that can only carry the tray from the bar with their hands doing this because they don't want to drop the glasses, then they're not going to be as speedy getting that round of drinks off the bar and to the table. Speed. Every element of your operation, the faster you are, the more we will mitigate some of that national minimum wage increase. So we've already looked at chunking. We've now looked at speed. What is your strategy to either train your team to be able to carry more so they can use less steps to get somewhere, or focus on kitchen speed or efficiency? Speed is going to be critical. So, hey, I'm in Junkyard Golf. I'm on a slide. We're talking about speed. Let's see how fast I can go down the slide, shall we? Speed needs to be part of your sales strategy. If it's not, go and focus on it right now. Cracking the sales code technique number 3 is all about tech. Tech is about efficiency. Tech is about making us faster, making us more productive, allowing us to do more. Tech needs to be part of your strategy if you have it. So if you are a general manager of a venue that has tech that allows you to pay at table, then one of the things I would be strongly encouraging is that you move to guest paying at the table. Because we all know what it's like. Friday night, you might be a theatre venue or concert venue. Everybody comes in and everybody wants to leave within that 15 minutes. You've got 2 PDQ machines, you've got 3 people on the floor, and everybody wants to pay 10 tables. Well, if we've put it into the steps of service that actually we tell them right at the start that you can pay when you're ready on the end through the app at the table, then actually those team, rather than taking people's money physically, can be selling at the table. They can be upselling, building relationships. They're not processing money, they're actually doing something to generate it. So you might be a general manager who sees that your central support team has brought in pay at table and it's a bit cumbersome and it takes away from the experience and it's a bit clunky and I don't want to use it. Whoa, stop it. Because actually that piece of tech will allow your team to generate money, not process money. I'm a guest. I come in. Actually, if you've engaged me, if you've told me that if I'm in a rush and I want to leave when I need to leave, then I can pay at table. Do you know what? I know what I'm doing. I can do that and I'm in control. So if you have pay at table and only 5% of your transactions go through it, then a really good part of your sales strategy should be to drive that percentage of transactions paying at table. Because let me tell you, the sooner somebody gets off that table, the sooner you can turn the covers. They'll be happier because that speed I talked about earlier, the 18% complaint, wasn't just about speed of food coming to table. It was actually speed of being able to pay and leave because my time is precious and I've got somewhere to go. So national minimum wage is going to squeeze the labour we've got available. Well, rather than squeezing it, let's be more efficient. Let's think about actually the 3 or 4 minutes per table I'm going to save means that I don't have to have maybe as many people to do that. Now, every venue is different. You will know what is right. My trigger point here is your sales strategy to grow revenue that can mitigate cost. Tech forms a part of it. And if it's not forming a part of it, then this is that jolt to make you think about it. Hey, here's a piece of tech in Junkyard Golf. It's a photo booth. Every time I go in it, like, I'm not actually going to go in it and pay, but £5 going in it, coming out. It's a piece of tech that should form part of the journey here, as it does. It's on the main thoroughfare through. I can see it. So just after this course, go and have a think about, am I using tech as efficiently as I could do, or am I a little bit biased or subjective? It only needs to remove a proportion of that hard work and it will have generated additional revenue. Cracking the sales code technique number 4 for mitigating those rising costs is all about delivery. Hospitality Data Insights, HDI, looked at share of wallet across the hospitality market. And it's no real surprise that delivery, speed, convenience, grab and go are actually growing. Well, if you are a food brand, restaurant brand, and you are not really maximising your delivery, then that should form part of your sales strategy. Because if you can generate £200 a week delivery, that's £800 a month. Out of that £4,000, you've just found £800 really easily by dialing up delivery. Now, delivery might be a different set of guests. It might be your current set of guests. It might be another reason to use you multiple times in a week. But if you're not focused on it, your social media doesn't talk about it, if you can use that, you're not telling guests about it, you're not visible on those channels, then it's something to think about. Because delivery, whether we like it or not, is forming a huge part of how we all live our lives. Delivery has never been more abundant than it is. In fact, you could say delivery is ubiquitous. What does that word mean? It just means everywhere. You can get everything delivered. Tesco's are using Whoosh. So delivery is a way of driving extra revenue. If delivery is not forming part of your plan currently, then it's something to put on your plan. If delivery is a small part of it, but you don't really talk about it, it's something that you have to do, then be a little bit more open-minded about it. Because delivery is another channel to market. The more channels we have to serve food and drink, the more revenue opportunities we have. Delivery doesn't take any extra effort if we deliver operational excellence. You might have to be planned. You might have to ensure you've got the right people on that can be constantly looking at the orders coming in. But it should generate a level of revenue that you might not have currently. Here I am, Junkyard Golf, sat in a car, and I kind of need to deliver some fuel to this car. So bear with me while I fill the car up with fuel. And delivery needs to fit as part of your plan. So I'm delivering. What are you doing to ensure you're delivering more revenue, more fuel You get the pun, more fuel to your guests through the food that they get at home. Delivery needs to form part of it. Cracking the sales code technique number 5 is now more about your people. So if I was to say to you, how many of your team have a personal development plan in place? I'm going to hazard a guess that not everybody does. I'm going to talk to you about 2 things here. I'm going to talk to you about talent management, and I'm going to talk to you about a really easy way to go and put a PDP in place for every member of your team that takes 5 minutes. If you don't have a PDP, personal development plan, in place for every member of your team, then how can you use every member of your team to contribute to actually driving that revenue that will mitigate the rising cost? For example, the team member that can only carry 2 plates should have a personal development plan of, I need to help you carry 3 plates. Let me talk about those 2 things. Talent management. Talent management, there are 2 versions of it. You can take an inclusive approach or an exclusive approach. Most people teams will take an exclusive approach, which is where they will identify a group of people who need some development. Might be high-performing general managers on a leadership program. An exclusive approach puts a level of investment in place that then that level of investment will impact the wider team and drive return revenue improvement. I want to challenge that though. That is absolutely perfect, but I believe as operators, we have to take an inclusive approach to talent management, which means we need to see everybody that works for us as having the potential to positively impact the performance of the business. Inclusive approach means we need a development plan for every member of your team. Every member of your team can be adding probably more value if we're developing them. The perfect talent management plan has a balance of both exclusive, central support, but operationally an inclusive approach drives performance. That's what we're talking about here today. So we might think a personal development plan, a PDP, is something quite formal that you have to set lots of time aside to do, that you sit somebody down, you fill in the form. That's past perfect. I want to blow that notion up. Here is how you can do a PDP in 5 minutes for all your team and actually drive revenue. I want you to get a block of yellow sticky notes. And with that block of yellow sticky notes, I want you to ask every member of the team to write down 1 thing that they need to learn to help them be better at their jobs. Then that yellow sticky note, I want you to put it on a back office wall and call it your inclusive wall, or your purple wall, or your talent wall. And then the team member has got 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to kind of achieve that yellow sticky note. And then when they've achieved the yellow sticky note, take it down and use some blue sticky notes and ask them, what do they now need to learn? Their blue sticky note goes up. It's a sticky note personal development plan. It doesn't matter whether it's formal, sat down. What matters is if I'm learning, I'm not leaving, but more importantly, I'm adding value to the business. That new starter who can only carry the bar tray with 2 hands because they're nervous, their PDP is be able to carry the tray with 1 hand within the next 4 weeks. And then their next trick might be actually to be able to carry 6 full pint glasses on that tray because they're only comfortable carrying 3. Every tiny micro adjustment that we can make to what a team member does is going to impact your performance positively. So go and put in the purple hack to PDPs, the sticky notes. And if you really want to impress me, go and get some purple sticky notes and put them on a purple wall. Then we'll be talking about purple people developing. So on this webinar, we've purposefully being a little bit tongue-in-cheek and fun to show you actually how we can bring this to life for team. Because what we have to remember is that it's not senior managers who deliver the performance on the floor in the venues that is going to mitigate some of this cost increase. It's the team. It's always the team that has got to get it. And if we empower the team to take small, actionable steps that can drive revenue and unlock that opportunity and potential, then actually whatever we do in the central support function, to optimise labour, to offset through pricing or procurement, actually our ops teams are meeting us halfway. Gen Z need things to be fun, simple, clear, engaging. The 5 actionable steps we've given in this webinar today will be things that they can understand, get on with, and really what we've done is created a sales strategy that encompasses 5 clear key areas: chunking, tech, delivery, personal development plans, and speed. Whichever way you put them, if your teams don't have a template or a plan that can mitigate that increase coming, then steal those 5 areas. Steal our cracking the sales code plan because it's ready-made for you to do that. And use the themes, the terminology we've given you today in this webinar to help unlock potential so that your GMs take control rather than waiting for you to go to them with the solution. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks very much.